Today I'll be showing you how to build the Batmobile from Batman, the animated series, in Tears of the Kingdom. Before we start, you'll need a lot of Zonai devices. You'll need 8 carts, 5 sleds, 4 small wheels, 1 spring, and 1 steering stick. It's best to work on flat ground, like here outside of Terrytown. Now then, let's take out a few of the carts, sleds, and the springboard to form the frame of the Batmobile. First, activate the spring. This will be important later. Next, attach the springboard to the back end of a cart, so that the hind legs of the spring are lined up with the end of the cart. Next step is to attach the steering stick to the other end of the cart. Due to the way Ultra Hand attaches parts, you can't attach it to the upper half of the cart. So the steering stick will have to hang off the edge of the cart. Don't worry, that won't hinder the build in the slightest. If you try pushing the stick further back, it'll clip underneath the springboard and be unusable. Be sure to test the device every now and then to make sure everything works. If the spring launches you up upon grabbing the stick, then you're doing it right. Now grab a sled and flip it upside down. We're going to attach it to the extended spring. Depending on how you attach it to the spring, will determine how effective it'll be as a roof for the driver's seat. Don't attach it directly on top of the spring like this, as it'll cause the steering stick to be unusable due to the lack of room for Link to move around while standing up. Instead, attach a sled so that half of the spring is exposed on top. This will give you enough room to grab the steering stick whether the spring is raised or lowered. You might have to fiddle with it a bit, as Ultra Hand is a bit finicky with how it attaches parts, but try to get it as centered as you can for best results. The roof should look like this. Next, flip a sled onto its side so that the underside faces outward and the back end points towards the back of the springboard. Attach it like so, and then do the same for the other side. This will act as the walls of the driver's seat of the Batmobile. The 2 sleds won't line up by default, so be sure to flip it onto its back so that the springboard is on the ground. Just detach whichever sled is unaligned and line it up with the ground. Test it out, and now the first third of the Batmobile is complete. Time to begin the midsection of the Batmobile. First, take a cart and place it wherever is convenient, and attach a second cart to the side of the first one. Make sure that the flat side of the second cart is facing outwards, otherwise it won't line up properly at the edges like so. If the rounded side with the orange pattern is facing outwards, then the first cart will only connect at the middle, and not the bottom like we need it to. Repeat this process for the other side, and you now have the skeleton for the midsection of the Batmobile. You might need to prop it up vertically to check for misaligned pieces. Ideally, the wheels on each cart should line up with each other like this. There's one more part to add to this section, but that'll come later. But for now, you can attach this section to the previous one so that the floor will have the steering stick overhang it. Give it a quick test, and now the Batmobile will lift off less than it did before thanks to the added weight of the midsection of the vehicle. So let's begin the front section of the Batmobile. First off, take 2 carts, flip one over, and sandwich them together. Make sure that the indentations on the sides of the 2 carts line up for the best results. Now, grab a couple more sleds and flip them over so that the underside will face upwards. Let's also take out a couple of carts and attach them to the sides of the front section, just like we did for the midsection. Same rules apply here. Try to line up the wheels for the best results, and this will make it easier to fit the sled in between them. You'll have to slide the sled in from under the wheels because it won't fit from above. Now you can attach the front end to the midsection like so. We're nearly done now. Just like with the previous sled, slide the final sled in from the front. Otherwise, you'll have to twist and turn it to fit the sled into the midsection. Make sure that the curved end of this sled connects with the back end of the previous sled like so. These two sleds will make up the hood of the Batmobile, with a nice little opening to act as the windshield and the entrance. From here, there's enough room to crouch lock into the driver's seat. Test the steering stick again. If you did everything correctly, then the framework of the Batmobile is now complete. All that's left is to make this into a fully functioning car, and not just an elongated bunker. Now then, take out 4 small wheels and a stake. The stake will be convenient towards attaching the wheels. Drive the stake into the ground and flip the Batmobile onto its side and attach it to the stake. Attach the back wheels to the sleds in the back like so. This way, they'll align with the rest of the Batmobile for a nice, smooth silhouette. Try as you might, the front wheels will not line up smoothly, but by attaching them to the middle of the carts at the front will yield the best results given these limitations. Congratulations, you now have a fully functioning car. However, it's not quite the Batmobile just yet. The final step is purely aesthetic. Add some bat wings to the sleds in the back. Personally, I'm going to use a pair of Gliok wings, but Key Swings will work as well if Glioks are too difficult for you to beat. With this, you have successfully built the classic Batmobile. If you so choose to, you can substitute the wings with a construct head and an emitter onto the hood of the vehicle for combat options while driving by. However, if you have the Fire Sage unlocked and equipped, then the hood of the Batmobile just became the chamber to a railgun. Even if the Fire Sage desyncs from the front, then the hood of the Batmobile will act as the chamber of a railgun to better aim your shots. A great benefit to this design is that with how tall the wheels are, they'll raise Link up enough to not be affected by the trails of fire left behind by the Fire Sage's attack, even if you drive directly over the flames. The Batmobile is battery efficient, seeing as the only parts that drain power are the wheels. The build is tall enough to keep you from being detected immediately by enemies, and Link is protected on all sides from enemy attacks. The only vulnerable spot is the windshield, but most enemies that do spot Link while in the Batmobile will just throw rocks at despawn before reaching the windshield due to the length of the hood. Also, the roof over the driver's seat doubles as a launch pad that'll send you flying upwards of 4 stories into the air, high enough to cut power to the Batmobile after being launched, so that it won't drive off without you. However, if you wanted to add some headlights to the Batmobile, you'd best settle with throwing some bright bloom flowers onto the front, seeing as this build already hits the build limit of 21 parts. The Batmobile goes downhill at a great pace and is great for flat terrain. Its biggest weakness, however, is going uphill and doesn't handle sand too well. The small wheels will get caught in the sand. For those situations, swap out the small wheels with big wheels to turn the Batmobile into a truly all-terrain vehicle that loses a bit of speed but gains access to more of the map. If the wheels deteriorate while on a snowy surface, then the Batmobile can make for a great makeshift controllable sled when going downhill. And if you take it into the desert, then you won't have to worry too much about the desert heat, as the roof and walls on the driver's seat will provide a constant source of shade. If you want even more combat options, then you can remove the midsection entirely and attach a construct head with 5 emitters or cannons of your choice. The only downside to this is that it makes the Batmobile look chibi and look somewhat silly, if not ridiculous. If you enjoyed this build, feel free to save it to your auto-build favorites, And now you have quick access to the Batmobile whenever and wherever you want. This build will set you back 63 Zonite if rebuilding it from auto build with no parts available. Hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.